Blog Talk Radio.
Are you ready? The champ is here! It's just a man! Give me a hell yeah! What the rock is cooking? To be the man, you have to be the man! Big Papa Pump! And you're hooked up! Falling! At the end! Woo, woo, woo! Cup of coffee in the big game.
It's Sunday, and you know what that means. Famcast Media and StreamYard proudly bring to you the latest edition of Working the Marks. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist and top 100 Latino for the third consecutive year via Latino Spirit Online magazine. Yes, it's me, folks, a Professor Fernando Uribe. Welcome you all here on this 23rd of April as we are wrapping up April. And, of course, joining me is my amazing co-host. He is the illustrious, the glorious, the dubious, and notorious Vincent Kennedy Mick Rivera joining me here, the VKM superstar joining us here on Famcast Media. And folks, yes, as you can see him there with his beautiful head of hair. What's going on, VKM?
Well, I'm doing good. I got a new setup going. You know, I got the Pat Cave going on here. It's fantastic time. I know we're going to have a couple of, little whammies on here because, I'm getting used to operating the furniture here. But just really good to be back with you. Great win for the Devils last night, man. Staying alive in the fucking series.
Right.
Nice to see Jack. I got the gimmicks hanging up on the wall. Nice to see Jack get a goal and Dougie Hamilton do it again in overtime. I think we got a series here. So I'm really, really excited to see where it goes. And obviously watching the big fight last night between Gervonta Tank Davis and King Ryan Garcia. Tank scoring a KO win there at the end. Really, really, really good match, man. And you could see a lot of the levels there, man. You could see the difference between Tank Davis and between Ryan Garcia. I know there was a lot of people on here. I know our buddy Lewis, he was rooting for Ryan Garcia, but Tank Davis was just something special last night. And, I think we've definitely seen the rise of the new face of boxing, and I look forward to seeing what comes from both of those athletes in the future. But just really happy to be back. I see you got your gimmicks on there. You're talking about the Survivor Series. Maybe we got to take on Bill Goldberg. Maybe Bill Goldberg. Dude, you had me fucking dying with that one. You had me dying with that one.
Of course. Folks, check us out on all of our great social media. Follow us, like Working the Marks on Facebook. And also a shout out, obviously, I know you mentioned our Devils, but a shout out to my Los Angeles Lakers. Let me get a little victory tea here.
You with the fucking basketball teams, I swear, dude, you're like Robert Horry, like you just go from like, oh, well, hey, this team has a chance to win a championship. I think they got a good thing going. Let me just go jump on their bandwagon, and then you get a chip. How many titles you got now? How many titles you got being a journeyman fan?
I have witnessed my Heat win 2 championships, my Cavs and my Lakers win 1. Well, obviously Kobe and the Shaq titles. It's a lot of titles. So, I'm always excited about that. And it was a good weekend for our teams, Pat. And certainly, folks, we appreciate you joining us from wherever and however you might be tuning in here live on Facebook. Also on the Famcast Media page on YouTube. Again, folks, sharing is caring. Do us a favor and share Working the Marks wherever you are here tonight. Pat, big weekend of news here. Let me start with something I think that's a little nostalgic, and I think it's something that you'll probably maybe not remember. I didn't remember this until I saw it on the news feed. But WWE announcing this week on their social media, they'll be having a week-long celebration as the WWE Championship, at the one time the WWF / even the WWF World Championship, will be celebrating 60 years of a milestone. And WWE announcing this week, obviously a week-long celebration. Obviously, the current title holder is the head of the table, the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns. But the WWF title at its time was first won by Nature Boy Buddy Rogers on April 25th, just in a couple of days, back in 1963. My God, 60 years of the WWE title. Pat, wow, man, where did the years go?
You tell me, man. I mean, you've been around way longer. You you were there when the title was first created, so you probably
I saw the strap. Yeah, I saw
Dave was there too. Dave's like Scott Bakula in Quantum Leap. You know, he jumps around from place to place, moment to moment in history. But no, certainly quite a milestone, man, for the most prestigious championship in North American wrestling and possibly globally in all of wrestling. So really interesting to see. It's a hot button topic. You know, I know a lot of fans are very, very passionate about the belt. They love their certain designs. They love all this stuff. And, you know, it's just really funny seeing people cry so much about these championships, cry so much about certain designs, and, you know, go out and buy all these things. You know, you go to the you know, the mark events, and you got all these guys walking around with, you know, WWE titles, you know, so it's definitely.
Pat, are you mentioning like not liking the design of the title belt itself, or just you mean like overall just walk around with titles?
Well, I mean, again, like the WWE title is one of those titles that I think everybody has a favorite, right? Like you have a favorite, I have a favorite, right? What's your favorite?
Man, I would argue probably the Eagle Wing Championship that we saw in the early to midnight. I'm sorry, I think in 19. Hold on, I think was it? Actually, you know what? Now I remember exactly. I think Vince remade the title in 1988, going into the tournament in WrestleMania 4. I think that's the first time we saw the winged championship belt, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I believe so. You know, I love the winged eagle. That to me is like definitive of a period. Obviously, you're wearing a T-shirt of a guy who carried that belt, you know, and carried it with a lot of great honor and with a lot of great pride. And, you know, I just think that titles in general, and specifically the WWF title, WWE title, that's one of those titles that I think everybody always debates about which one they like the best. And it's something that's very near and dear and very important to a lot of fans' minds, for good or ugly or whatever, you know, because obviously we know how people like to watch wrestling, you know, whether it's angrily or just enjoy the show for what it is. So, yeah, certainly quite an achievement. And, you know, I look forward to what they're doing with the championship with Roman and where this goes.
Pat, favorite WWF champion, least favorite WWF champion?
Favorite WWF champion, man. Gee, that's a tough one, but I'm going to have to go with the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. And my least favorite WWF champion, I'm probably going to say Kane.
Well, you mean like just because it was a one-day reign, or just you didn't like him being champion?
I didn't think he needed it, to be quite honest. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Taker was a different story. Kane was just good being Kane, a monster, Intercontinental title, tag team title, stuff like that. But like to give him a world title, you know, like him getting the ECW title, I thought was cool. I thought that was good. You know, I know a lot of people might not agree with it, you know, but yeah, man. Why do I look like Chris Pratt took a vacation in New Jersey right now?
Maybe a little bit. Maybe the lighting, you know.
I got like a fatter Chris Pratt thing going on. You know what I'm saying?
This might surprise you. My favorite WWF champion, and I'll give you an explanation for it, would be Hulk Hogan. And the reason is because I think his title win. And it's funny because last week, if for our audience, if you watched the A&E biography on Iron Sheik, which was really interesting, by the way. A lot of things I didn't know about the Iron Sheik per se that I thought was very, very educational. But I think the reason that's my favorite WWE is because I think that was the period in professional wrestling on a mainstream North American level where Vince put all his poker chips in the middle of the table and ran with Hulk. Pop culture, rock and wrestling, incorporating MTV. Right? Again, folks forget that MTV was really at that same point of its infancy right around WrestleMania 1. So, you know, we wouldn't have a lot of the pop culture references or pop culture sort of correlation if it wasn't for Hogan winning that championship in January of '84 against the Iron Sheik. And I think that's, to me, my favorite because it's the most significant, at least in my lifetime. Because, again, Backlund, Sheik, Bruno, this is way before my time. So, to me, seeing Hogan win it and what you saw transition out of that, rock and wrestling, MTV, WrestleMania 1, you know, appearances on the A-Team, on mainstream television. Like, this was big stuff. Like, because wrestling was still kind of hokey per se, where, oh, well, people looked at it as like, well, it was a niche audience. No, Vince and Hogan together started branching out and really making WWF at the time like that global monster that it becomes. So that's my favorite champion. Least favorite, you're going to laugh when I say this, but I have to say that Psycho Sid winning it in Madison Square Garden in 1996 at the Survivor Series. I didn't like that. I get why it had to happen, but probably my least favorite WWF champion. I just thought that was not the most inspiring run. I get it. Vince had to put the belt on temporarily for Michaels to win it back a couple months later in San Antonio, but probably my least favorite champion.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I totally get the Hogan thing and where you're coming from a business perspective. But like, what about like sentimental favorite? Like one that really just like tugs on the old heartstrings there, on your black heart there, Uribe.
Like I got to tell you, man, I really, you know what? I think it was Flair winning in '92 at the Rumble.
Cool.
I think it was, to me, you know, for a lot of years we saw Hogan getting all the attention. And I know that there have been a lot of great Royal Rumbles. When you look at that Rumble match, you look at the participants, you look at the amount of Hall of Famers and just the classical wrestlers we grew up with. I mean, winning the Battle Royal with Undertaker in his prime, Jake, Roddy Piper, Macho Man, Ted DiBiase, Davey Boy Smith. I mean, bro, you're talking about like a really good – that 30 man, that list of 30 men that participate, that's as good as any list you can remember, I think, in Rumble history. And I think just the significance of Flair coming over, pushing the whole Real World's champion, won the belt. You know, obviously we've come to learn what happened, right, in the months since then, the politics. Hogan didn't want to put him over. Flair, whatever. We ended up having the main event we had at WrestleMania that year in '92. I just think, to me, was the most sentimental because it gave Flair the validation he needed, because pretty much he was just a regional champion. He was WCW, NWA, South, Southwest, maybe Mid-Atlantic region of the country. I would just argue, I think that gave Flair the validation he needed, especially with how he got run out of town from Jim Herd in WCW at the time. I think, to me, it validated Flair on so many levels.
No, I totally agree with you, man. I think that was a really, really nice breakdown for two of the biggest stars in the history of the business and what their title reigns and what their title victories, particularly the WWF Championship, mean to the greater history of professional wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, again, and I'm really interested with the social media celebration this week. I'm sure there'll be a lot of clips, probably the most memorable title wins. We'll see Hogan to Flair, to Austin, to Michaels, to Brett, to Undertaker, Cena. I mean, I'm sure there'll be no shortage of content this week on WWE social media. Other interesting news here coming out of New Japan. Mercedes Moné, the former Sasha Banks character in WWE, apparently will be, according to, again, and we have to sort of take this with a grain of salt from Uncle Dave, but apparently Mercedes Moné agreed to an extension of her current contract just hours before the Stardom event at the All-Star Grand Queendom event. And she did lose the IWGP Women's Championship to Mayu Iwatani this weekend, which marked her end to her reign of only 64 days. But there's no word yet how long her deal has been extended. But however, she did mention that the next stop in the Mercedes Moné tour will be at Resurgence, the New Japan pay-per-view coming out of Long Beach, California, on May the 21st, on a Sunday, no less. You know what? Good for Mercedes. I think she's trying to milk as much as she can of her, not newfound stardom, but I think of, stardom away from WWE and making some money. And listen, not to say she won't come back to WWE. I'm sure that, the marks will have their conspiracy theories about how she left and why, who to blame, why to blame, whatever. Good for Mercedes. She's making money in a company that is unbelievably reputable and unbelievably respected, like New Japan. Good for her. I don't know what the dollar figures are per se, but it's nice to see her get an extension.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of figure she was going to do this. Once she got the opportunity to go to Japan, I don't think that this was going to be like a one-off thing or maybe a couple of spot shows. I think that she's really interested in giving back with her legacy as Sasha Banks. I think, how people feel about her in the grand scheme of things, that's all subjective, but she's had a very, very important impact on modern women's wrestling. And I think it's really cool that she's using her notoriety to go to Japan and to work with those girls in Stardom who a lot of people don't know, and potentially put them in line to get recognized by one of the two major companies here in the States.
Yeah, no, for sure. And listen, good for her. We'll see, obviously, who her opponent will be at Resurgence next month in Long Beach, the LBC, as they say out there in Cali. Very interesting to see what that show will be made up of coming up next month in New Japan. Let's switch to some AEW news here. Apparently, Tony Khan, I'm trying to keep a straight face, folks. It's just hard. But Tony Khan will be making yet another announcement this Wednesday on Dynamite.
You just made the list!
Probably will be another poorly rated Dynamite. More on that later. An announcement we don't know, but apparently a lot of speculation this week, though, Pat, that Tony Khan will be announcing that AEW Collision, after it was recently patented, will be the new Saturday night show coming up on, I believe, TBS. We don't know exactly the time frame, whether it's 6 to 8 or 8 to 10. Now, again, it's ironically, it will be emanating from the United Center in Chicago, coming up on that Saturday, June 17th. I think it's a smart start date. I think that's right after the NBA Finals, if I'm not mistaken. I think after the Stanley Cup Finals as well. And, it's baseball season. It is what it is. It might be on TNT. I know Braves baseball dominates a lot of TBS, but the point is that Tony Khan apparently wants to put more of his chips into the middle of the table, a new Saturday night show. I would argue, I think I'd rather see it 6 to 8. Again, the WCW mark in me would love to sort of relive the WCW Saturday night time slot. I think 8 to 10 would be a mistake. For someone like me, I'm not the most social butterfly. I can be. I'd like to start getting ready, ironing my suit, clothes, whatever, to go out my Saturday night. I don't mind a 6 to 8 p.m. during dinner. I can watch it. I can be entertained. I can laugh. That seems at least what I understand that could be Tony Khan's announcement. What are you hearing?
The Snowman has an announcement to make. I just had to get that in there. Well, who knows? I'm pretty sure, I guess, based on what we're hearing, it looks like it's going to be leaning in the direction of them announcing Collision and CM Punk possibly coming back. So I think that's really big for the company, especially heading into that Wembley show. I know we got a comment here about something regarding Drew McIntyre. I still believe Drew McIntyre is still under contract, if I'm not mistaken. So whether his participation in the show is there or not, that remains to be seen. But in all probability, it's going to be the Chicago thing. I realized I could do a pretty good Stevie Wonder too now.
God help us! I swear to God, I can't.
That's racist.
No, it's not. It's not racist. It's a blindest. All right.
That's blindest.
All right. That's worse. All right.
Okay.
I'm not racist. I'm black. All right. I have black family.
We all know 14%, ladies and gentlemen. We all know.
Yes. Yes.
Pat's hood is Compton Records.
Well, not as hood as you, Fern.
Well, listen, the whole hood knows about me. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. You know what else the hood knows about?
What's that?
The Snowman has to make an announcement.
Pat, I don't know about this. I mean, listen, it's interesting because it's a debut of a new show. It's almost about a week or two before Forbidden Door. Again, before we get to Double or Nothing in Las Vegas, the next AEW pay-per-view, that's going to be the next pay-per-view, Forbidden Door. I think in late June. I think the last Sunday of June, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, man. This show could be a gamble. And there's a lot of rumors, Uncle Dave this week and all the other dirt sheet writers apparently are claiming that it's all but certain that CM Punk will return that Saturday night at the United Center, which, seems a little anticlimactic in my opinion. And, we're hearing different rumors about what it means to his return. But, I would just say try to get your shows during the week right instead of like inundating us with more shows on a Saturday where – now it's 2 hours. Now you have to try to fill 2 hours with, and again, if the rumors are true about this is a brand split and it's going to be led by CM Punk and other guys and girls that aren't being used regularly on television. Listen, for AEW marks, you have Dark on Monday nights on YouTube at 7:00 for an hour. You have Dark Elevation on Tuesdays at 7:00. Okay, this is what wrestling looks like, folks, for everybody that isn't really aware about wrestling. You got Dark at 7. You got 3 hours of Raw on Monday. You got Dark Elevation on Tuesday at 7 on YouTube. You have NXT for 2 hours. You have Dynamite on Wednesdays for 2 hours. You have Ring of Honor at 7 o'clock on YouTube, or the Ring of Honor channel. I forget what it's called. Honor Club, maybe.
They have another show, right? Isn't it AEW? They have one called In a Dark Elevator.
Maybe. And then you have Impact Wrestling at 2 hours. Then you have New Japan. Then you have SmackDown on Friday. Then you have Rampage. And now you're going to have a 2-hour AEW show on Saturday. I mean, I love watching wrestling, but Jesus Christ, bro. Like, even this is a lot.
Well, yeah, man. I mean, I think that there's a ton of it everywhere. I mean, there's so much of it, and it's hard to choose what you like. And I think that's why it's so divisive amongst hardcore fans, because there's just so much to choose from, and everybody thinks that what they like is the best thing. But, you know, you got to look at the facts, you got to look at the details, and you got to look at the numbers and all the things that are important and the things that matter in the business. I mean, none of these guys are wrestling in a prestigious shoot fight organization where they win this title and it actually really means something. Like, no, that's right, this is a gimmick, man. And, you know, they're doing what they got to do, and they're not fucking wind up toys. But you know, it seems like they're going to divide the locker room. They're going to, you know, have the Punk people on the Punk show and the Elite people on the Elite show. And hey, maybe that might work until somebody pisses off either one of the two ranking cliques. So we'll see where it goes. But CM Punk back in AEW is a good thing for AEW. AEW needs it. They need the shot in the arm. And not only AEW, but anybody that's going to be associated with CM Punk, whether it's FTR or with the Elite or anybody else, it definitely helps them.
No, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see what that rating will be, because as we all know, Rampage isn't very good. I mean, last night, for example, it was a rainy night. Got to stay home, watch the Laker game a little bit, and obviously watch Rampage too. Again, and I talked about this, and by the way, folks, shout out to our amazing executive producer, D. Rotten, who makes this show possible every Sunday. So shout out to him. I was saying this before where, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I watch AEW because it's entertaining. It's funny / Family Guy, stupid funny, if I could really itemize it to the best of my ability. That's why I watch it. I don't watch it because I think it's good wrestling. I just watch it because it's like funny to humorous to just downright like asinine. Again, I'll have my complaints about booking, but I'll always complain about booking. But the point is that, you know, I watch it because it's entertaining, not because, oh my God, if I want to watch good wrestling or good storytelling or good character work, I'll watch WWE. We just know that's the fact. Now, AEW marks might get triggered by that statement, but those are the facts, you know?
Yeah.
So speaking of WWE, obviously after a blockbuster WrestleMania 39, certainly we know about Vince McMahon's return to the promotion in January to set up the eventual sale of WWE to Endeavor. Obviously, he'll remain as the executive chairman of the new co. Obviously, it's the merger of UFC and WWE into Endeavor. Interesting though, Pat, this week a lot of tidbits are making the news about apparently aggressive budget cuts maybe being proposed by WWE CEO Nick Khan. What that could have an impact on. But one of the things that, again, it's interesting because fans sometimes don't read beyond the headline or a sentence or two in an article. And nowhere is it being stipulated that we're seeing roster moves or top executive positions. It might be as simple as just like maybe overlap in certain positions within a corporate structure, which, again, they're entitled to make. But again, whether it's Dave Meltzer, whether it's Brian Alvarez, whether it's Sam Ross Sapp or the others, will just go with the narrative of, oh, budget cuts. They just came off record gate, and look what they're doing. They're looking to downsize. That's not what this is about. But, you know, marks are going to run with whatever narrative they want. And I think that, you know, listen, Nick Khan can go on podcasts. Nick Khan can talk about whatever about the business with people. Whether people would just assume he's lying. There's just this automatic skepticism about Nick Khan, about him being just a mouthpiece for Vince. So whatever Vince tells him to say, he's going to say, because theoretically in the corporate structure, Vince is still his boss. That's what marks are going to go with, and they're going to die on that hill.
It's really weird, man. You know, it's like no matter how many, you know, press releases they put out, no matter what they do, no matter how much they change things, no matter who they push, whatever the case might be, whoever gets merch, people are always going to fall back on this belief that Vince is somehow still involved. And it's really, really sick, and it's really, really weird. And I think people need to realize that the boogeyman's gone, that he has nothing to do with it. And
he does. Yeah, he does.
How so?
Well, we'll talk about that in our main event topic, but you know he does. Come on, bro.
I mean, come on, Fern. Like, come on, man. Like, are you going to tell me that the Easter Bunny showed up at your house next? Is that what you're going to tell me too?
I'm not saying that. I mean, we'll talk about during our main event topic this week, but there's a lot of indicators that would tell you that Vince is still around.
Whatever the case might be. I just think that you need to understand that Triple H is the guy in charge. Triple H is the guy calling the shots. And the proof is in the pudding. Look at the product. But whatever. We're not going to talk about that now. Okay. But yeah, man, we'll see what happens.
No, it's definitely something I think worth looking at. Obviously, as we see there, staying on WWE, more information came out this week regarding WWE's new deal with Twitch. Now, the agreement apparently is going to allow WWE stars to resume streaming on the platform. Different news sites, again, take with a grain of salt, folks. The portion of the revenue cut WWE will come from the Twitch side. Now, apparently it's being confirmed that through talent, the WWE's Twitch cut is from the Twitch side, not from the talent side, according to Andrew Zarian reporting this week. Additionally reported that talent would get a larger cut than other streamers who also use the platform. According to them, WWE executives negotiated for talent to get a larger cut than other creators on the platform. This was described as a, quote, very talent-friendly deal. WWE had previously banned talent from using third-party platforms, including Twitch and Cameo, back in the fall of 2020. Zelina Vega at one point was actually released from the company after a dispute over the ban, but returned to the company the following year. Pat, I mean, I think we talked about it off the air a lot. This seems like probably this is going to empower certain marks to say, really, WWE doesn't make enough money. They got to start dipping into the pockets of the talent now. They want to go on Twitch. Come on, man. This is corporate greed on steroids here. But it seems like, apparently a new agreement was reached, and it seems to be very talent-friendly to those that want to use the platform. I think it's a win-win. I think a lot of it was blown up on hyperbole, I would say, probably in the previous years about, oh, well, these guys and girls are on Twitch, they're independent contractors, let them make their own money. They're still contracted under the WWE umbrella. So, I mean, if WWE wants to sort of stipulate what you can and can't do, I mean, again, I know we talk about this off the air. We argue sometimes about it like funny in a funny way, but it's no different than whatever code of conduct / parameters that a company wants to impose on employees. That just happened to be one of them, right, with Twitch. And if you wanted to make side money, well, guess what? WWE is going to say, well, you can't. Selena Vega learned all about that. But at the end of the day, they're compensating men and women X, Y, and Z dollars. They're going to say, well, we don't want you doing this. It seems like maybe whether it was backlash or pushback, I don't know what it was. It just seems like, hey, you know what? They're letting the guys and girls make some extra side money. I don't see it as a bad thing.
Was it WrestleMania backlash or just regular backlash?
Thank the Lord that in a couple of weeks it's regular backlash. Yes.
Thank the Lord it's in Puerto Rico.
Well, I don't think anybody is ever going to say that openly, but not me. But
well,
is the show going to be late?
That's very debatable. All right, that's very
that show
debatable.
That show won't even start 8 o'clock. It'll start like at 8:45. It's Puerto Rican time. Come on.
Hell yeah, and everybody's gonna have a fucking grand old time. You kidding me? It's gonna be awesome. But yeah, I mean, I look at it like this. The WWE is giving you a platform to be known globally, right? They're the ones that are putting you out there. Otherwise, you would still be plying your trade in some indie spot. When you sign with the WWE, you're their little piece of clay. And they can mold you into whatever the fuck they want to mold you into, and they can tell you what you can or can't do because they're giving you a platform to be a star. So for them to want to cut, and for them to also say, hey, you can do this, and we want a little cut, but you also have to have a code of conduct. You can't go on here and you can't do a bunch of shit that you're not supposed to be doing. You can't be showing your, your nether regions and all that other stuff. And, you have to behave a certain way and you can't say certain things. Understandable. All this stuff is very, very understandable. But again, when you hate a company, when you hate a man that created everything, when you hate him, you know what? I'm gonna get all Dave Meltzer about this because I know Uribe hates this shit. When you're a dude like Vince, who all he did was entertain fans, and fans have some sort of weird vendetta and obsession against him, it's really, really fucking odd, man. It's really, really odd. Okay, all this guy ever wanted to do was entertain you people. So just because he's figuring out the best way possible to make sure that his company doesn't get dragged into some shit, and he's making money off the fact that these people are contracted to him, otherwise they wouldn't be known. I don't think that's really particularly unfair. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that's unfair at all.
No, absolutely. Speaking of what's perhaps maybe being construed as unfair, as we wrap up the news here this week, WWE Hall of Famer Bill Goldberg, that's his name, Bill Goldberg.
Bill Goldberg.
You know,
Ferd, you got to give them the backstory on that, the listeners. You know,
all right, well, folks, the reason that's really, really funny, again, if you are as avid a Bret the Hitman Hart fan as I am, obviously, you'll all remember, perhaps, maybe when if you don't remember, again, you can go on Peacock and endure 37 ads during the old Thunder episodes.
If you're a cheapskate.
I'm not a cheapskate, okay? I'm very judicious with my money, so.
That's why you don't have a light cover in your bathroom, dude.
What's that? You know, for a guy that picks up the Uribe compound as much as he does, he loves to visit here. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I get tired of signing the NDAs every time I go over there. You know, that's the only problem.
You get the handwriting, you get the penmanship going, which is very interesting, folks. If you remember in the mid to late 90s, once WCW Thunder premiered on TNT on Thursdays, Bret was one of the more featured guys. And if you remember, in mid to late 99, Bret the Hitman Hart was feuding with Bill Goldberg. And one of the things that Bret the Hitman Hart was emphatic about during his promos with Mean Gene, Tony Schiavone, whoever, was referencing the name Bill Goldberg. And you could tell it kind of triggered Mean Gene, and it kind of triggered all the other announcers like, no, it's Goldberg. He goes, no, it's Bill Goldberg. And every time he cut a promo, he'd be like, well, you know what, Bill Goldberg, I'm going to make sure to teach you a wrestling lesson because Bill Goldberg needs that. Because for far too long, Bill Goldberg has been running rampant around this company, and now I'm going to teach Bill Goldberg a lesson. Folks, if you go back and watch that, you could tell he was doing it just to be annoying, to annoy Goldberg fans. So again, don't take my word for it. Go on YouTube, go on Peacock, watch it. You're going to piss your pants, as clearly Pat is.
Bill Goldberg, let me tell you something, Bill Goldberg. I grew up in the dungeon with my father, Stu Hart. You're going to get a wrestling lesson. I'm throwing the rule book out the window.
You know, and obviously one of Bret's better promos, right, during his WCW days, right?
His best promo was the El Dandy promo.
Yes, it definitely was. Folks, if you haven't seen that, check it out on YouTube for sure. But WWE Hall of Famer Bill Goldberg this week say he had an agreement in place with then WWE chairman Vince McMahon to have a retirement match before his contract with the company expired. During an appearance this past week on 93.7 FM, The Ticket, courtesy of Ringside News, he said the following, quote, Vince McMahon and I had a handshake understanding that, after the Roman Reigns match, I would have a proper retirement match. And, that hasn't come to fruition through them. So therefore, nobody puts a stamp on my career. Nobody tells me, just pop up out here. Sorry. Nobody tells me when I'm done, period. We were done a long time ago. That's another story. When somebody tells me that, I kind of like to fight against it. I like to do things my own way and go out my own way. And certainly don't go out, under Roman Reigns, 3 weeks after I've had COVID and agreed to a match.
Is he Limp Bizkit now? It's my way or the highway.
I know, right? Goldberg's last match, thankfully, was at Elimination Chamber in February of 2022 in Saudi Arabia, which was another fucking shit show of a match. But what else is new with Bill Goldberg? He lost to Reigns in a Universal Championship match just 6 weeks before Reigns would eventually beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 38 in Dallas to unify the titles and become the first ever WWE undisputed Universal Champion. Reigns and Goldberg were previously scheduled to have a match at WrestleMania 36, but it didn't happen since Reigns pulled out of the event amid the COVID pandemic at the time. Ringside News had also previously reported that Goldberg's contract expired on January 1st, thank the Lord, and since then, multiple companies have expressed interest in booking him. In an interview, as a matter of fact, with Justin Barrasso of Sports Illustrated in March, Bill Goldberg said he thought WWE owed him a retirement match. and expressed interest in putting together a retirement match of his own in Israel, Jesus, if WWE wasn't interested. Bill Goldberg bust on the scene, as we all know, in pro wrestling in WCW 1997. And obviously, we all know the history here with Bill Goldberg. You know what? If I never get to see Bill Goldberg again on my TV screen, I'll be a happy guy, Pat.
You know, today's going to be a historic episode of Working the Marks because I think Vince McMahon finally did something wrong here. You know, a legend.
This is historic because
he's
a legend.
A legend in the business, like Bill Goldberg. Everything that he's contributed to the business, the great talent that he was, the ratings draw, the worker, the human being, the humanitarian, the role model, the children globally.
Pat,
what a beautiful storybook finish this could have been to an amazing career. Hold on a second, man.
I understand weed is legal in New Jersey for some years now, but bro, what are we consuming here? The worker?
Oh, real cool, Uribe. You know, making the weed joke. You know, real
worker?
Cool,
bro.
What?
If you're trying to trigger Marks, that's great, bro. Worker? That's not, bro. You can't use that word, bro. Come on, stop.
He wasn't in the ring. He didn't know how to electrify a crowd. Is that what you're telling me, Uribe? Is that what you're telling me? Huh?
Stop it.
Come on, dude. I've seen you get pink with excitement, just like your shirt there, except without all the crying. I've seen you get pink with excitement. Okay, thinking about Bill Goldberg. All right.
A good worker.
He was never a bad worker. Like, I don't understand where you're getting.
You're not a good worker. You're a bad worker.
What work have you ever done, huh? What work have you ever done? Why don't you tell me 3 ways to counter a hammerlock, huh? Mr. fucking technician.
I'm not a professional wrestler per se.
What are you, the William Regal of Union City? Is that what you are? Huh?
He wasn't a good worker. I get where you're going.
He wasn't a good worker. He electrified the crowd and he drew ratings. People liked him. People wanted to see him. People still want to see him. He's a legend. He's a legend.
I understand the ratings argument about during the Attitude Era, during the ratings war. I get all that.
Why don't you like Bill Goldberg, huh? Why don't you tell me why, huh?
Well, it's nothing anti-Semitic. Some people might think who watch this show.
Big surprise there.
Oh, it's not there's nothing anti-Semitic about my dislike for Bill Goldberg. I just never got. I get it in the summer. Well, during Christmas time, 97, going into 90, I understand that Bischoff saw that WCW was getting stale. I get it. He caught lightning in a bottle with Bill Goldberg.
Goldberg.
Pulled him out of the power plant, put him out there weekly, working with, good guys from Bill DeMott to Paul White, to Steve McMichael. Well, I'm not sure I call Steve McMichael a great worker, but put him out there with seasoned guys. And, he caught lightning in a bottle. He became popular, shirts, who's next. Pat, I get all that. And I understand that he was a big, that show in the Georgia Dome in June of 98 when he beat Hogan. I get it. That was an iconic moment in pro wrestling on free TV, no less. Again, another business decision botched by Eric Bischoff. But I just never got the allure. Never cut a great promo. Very just, plenty of guys that scream and holler on a microphone. That's nothing new.
What would have been a good promo? Him going boom? Would that have been a good promo?
Oh, maybe. No, maybe.
Would maybe him wearing his big brother's clothing? Would that have been better? Would you have liked it? Did he not do a Canadian Destroyer? Is that what you wanted to see?
I get the business side of why Goldberg worked and why he was successful and still continues to be successful. I'm not diminishing the business component of why Bill Goldberg is still a draw. It just wasn't for me. I never, ever got, I'll be very honest with you. I would watch the ratings war during the mid to late 90s, and I would say, okay, well, all right, Goldberg's fighting. All right, whatever. I'll be very honest with you. You started seeing Bischoff was just sort of throwing whatever up against the wall to see what stuck, and I get it. He caught lightning in a bottle with Bill Goldberg. I get all that. Again, I'm not diminishing the business component of it. But no one's ever going to tell me, oh, my God, you know what? The top 5 Bill Goldberg matches, they weren't great matches to watch to begin with. So that's just my argument about why I was never enthralled to watch him. I get it. He made money, merch, gate, rate. I'm not disputing the business component of it, but as a wrestling fan, there was nothing enthralling about Bill Goldberg.
That's your opinion, man. He was the greatest.
Well, thankfully, you're one of very few. Okay,
That's fine.
You're one of very few, but a lot of people that spend a lot of money to keep the business alive, that don't complain about it, appreciate Bill Goldberg and everything that he's done for the wrestling business. Okay. You know, Hulk Hogan never got hurt working him. Shawn Michaels never got hurt working him. You know, Ric Flair never got hurt working him. You know, come on. What a talent. And so what? Mistakes happen, okay? You've never been in the ring. You don't know.
I get that.
Put some respect on his name, all right, bro? Put some fucking respect on his
made
name.
an effort to get better. Not dramatically better. He didn't. I mean, am I imagining what I'm seeing on how he never got dramatically better? Like, he just didn't.
Okay, but bro, like, we're not talking about some dude here that's relying on fucking technical wrestling to get him over. He's a big hitter. You know what I'm saying? That's like being like, well, you know, Brock Lesnar doesn't do a Hurricane Rana and he doesn't do a fucking Magistral Cradle, so he's not really a good wrestler. Nah, he just fucking sells out stadiums and he excites people. Not Marks. Yeah, always crying about everything.
Acknowledge me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I get that. I mean, but the idea of sort of maybe airing his grievances like that this week on not just, 93.7 The Ticket and also on Sports Illustrated last month, I get it. He's a little dissatisfied with maybe how he's finishing his pro wrestling career. I get all that. Listen, there's no shortage of venues and mediums to go air your grievances on. I just think
AEW.
But
yeah.
Listen, Vince McMahon, for whatever reason, to your point, again, and folks, this is a historic moment in podcast history, social media history, that Vincent Kennedy McRivera actually disagreed with something. And folks, this is, remember, if you all remember when Kennedy was shot, where you were when the stock market crashed in 1980.
Princess Diana, when she died.
Princess Diana perished in Paris because the Queen had someone take her out. Sorry. She died in an automobile accident because she was pregnant with an Arab man's baby. Sorry.
Conspiracy.
Yeah. Y2K, supposed crash of the internet.
It's wrong.
Y2J.
Wrong is wrong, Fernando. Wrong is wrong, okay?
Great Recession in 2008. Those are historic moments. Think about today, folks, on April 23rd, 6:20 p.m. Eastern Time. VKM in Weehawken disagrees with something Vince McMahon did. You know what? Fuck this. I might start smoking weed just for that. I mean, that
spark it up.
I heard you already got around. There's some insider reports.
No,
days late.
That's
very reliable sources. But
that's all speculation.
No, it's. Let me tell you, man. I think it's sad. I think Goldberg deserves a retirement match for everything that he's meant to the business. And I think if you can't admit that, you're just blind with envy. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe you're pink with envy in your instance,
Bro,
So,
he lost to Roman Reigns. Let that be his last match.
well,
That's
I mean,
it.
Fernando,
Acknowledge me.
you got to understand. I mean, he's a star. He's a star.
He is. I get it. But he lost to Roman Reigns in a match that, my God, bro, like you go back and watch that. It was painful.
Yo, you know that Luke Skywalker lost to Darth Vader in a lightsaber duel, right? And he lost his hand.
And everything.
Yeah. That was still great though, right? You want to do that booking too? You want Luke to go over? Listen, Luke's gonna keep his hand. Luke's gonna keep his hand.
That match wasn't great. Neither was Bobby Lashley. Neither was Undertaker. That's
Okay.
it. He lost to Reigns. That's
Okay.
it. We don't
Okay.
need him to do that.
I'm over here doing the Meltzer microphone gimmick, and you're the one who's over here critiquing him like you're fucking Meltzer. How many fucking Cuban stars does that one get? In the fucking in the Fernando Uribe wrestling fucking system.
27 de 5 stars. Okay.
Unbelievable, bro.
God, seriously. I mean, he's lost enough already. That's it. He lost to Roman Reigns. Let that be your last match. You lost to arguably the person that's going to become the GOAT of professional wrestling. Like,
He is the GOAT.
that's it.
Dude.
Well,
Just think about it, man. All that Goldberg devastation, man. You know, like he's a legend. He's an all-time great in the business, bro. And I just think that it's completely unfair that he doesn't have that retirement match. You know, he should have that match.
I think you need to cut your hair to get some fucking air to your brain for saying that.
I think you're yellow with envy. All right, that's what I think, Dave. I think you're envious of William Goldberg. Okay,
He used my government name.
We don't need to see him on TV again. Losing,
maybe not you, and your fucking 5 fan friends. Okay, but people that actually fucking matter, that keep the business going, they want to see him.
No, I get it. The nostalgia component is there. That's all well and good, bro.
He's a big enough name to fill out Wembley Stadium.
Woo! Well, I mean, that's not someone I'd be looking forward to watching. But again, it's not for me. I get it.
I mean, you know, but he's a star, Fernando. He's a star.
Goldberg versus Jericho.
Oh my God. Oh, Jesus Christ. That's not going to sell out. That's not going to sell out the Elks Lodge in Weehawken, New Jersey, folks. Get out of here. Okay. So, I mean, come on, man. I get it. There's a business component to him, but bro, he's lost enough already. He's put over people. That's it. We don't need to see him on TV again. It's painful. From Taker 5 years ago, I'll never forget that match. And for someone to lecture, not you, but for someone to lecture me, well, you know, it could have been better. No fucking shit, it could have been better. Bro, we didn't have to see it to begin with. But see, this is the thing. It's not about me complaining, but when the potential is there for something to be disastrous and you do it anyway, and then it turns to shit, and then someone like me says, I told you so, then people get pissed. Oh, well, Fernando, because you can see it already marinating. It's going to be shit. Why push something that you know is going to be shit? When it turns to shit, oh, I don't know what happened. You could see it. It's preconceived already. Why? It's not me being the complainer. It's like, oh, I can see us a mile away. This is going to be a train wreck. And when it is a train wreck, oh, well, shit, man, why? We saw it already, but we had to do it anyway because we just needed to do it. Pat, like, come on, bro. Es que se sabe que eso iba a ser un desastre. And 5 years later, no one can rationalize that match. Nobody can rationalize that match.
Let me tell you something, dude. I hope one day when you choose to retire, which will probably be in the next couple of years because you're about 7,000 years old anyway, I hope that somebody denies you the opportunity to retire on your terms, to go out on your terms. I hope somebody tells you, Uribe, you can't do your fucking political show in fucking Cuba or in Colombia, okay? You can't do it there. You can't retire that way and go out the way you want to go out, okay? I see you. You're a hater. Okay, you're a hater, and I hope that you do not get to retire the way you want to retire one day. Okay, so that's all I got to say about that. You know, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted, and I think we need to move on to the next segment because this is a little ridiculous now. But I hope somebody stands in your way, Uribe. You look at this finger as I point. I'm pointing at you. This finger right here.
You know, I make sense. You
don't make sense. You don't make sense. You sound salty. You sound like somebody who would cry about it for 20 plus years. That's what you sound like. Okay.
Hey,
there's money to be made. There's money to be made.
No, that. Okay. I don't know what happened there. Okay. Pat is right. There is money to be made. I don't disagree whatsoever. There is. D, is he still with us? D?
Oh, yeah. I'm still here.
Is he still here, or did he?
No, Pat. Where did he go?
I don't know. Well, hopefully, maybe he just
disappeared, like he lost his internet connection.
Okay, well, he'll be back on. Yeah. So it's interesting. You know, again, it's not a Midas. Like again, I understand the business component about Bill Goldberg. It just wasn't for me. But like, again, D. I mean, I don't know your thoughts on like. The points I just made in Pat's. I mean,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had to take a moment there. All right.
Okay.
You got me a little worked up, pal. All right. You got me a little worked up, pal.
I got you tight. My apologies. I got you tight. So, I mean, you know, Pat.
You have no respect for the business. You have no respect for people that sacrifice to this business to be at the top of the card, man, to make things happen. Come on.
Pat, I get that. And again, there's money to be made. All your points are valid. I'm just saying that we as fans, when we see the writing on the wall, like, bro, this match could just be a stinker. And
where are you getting this information from? Did you take a fucking poll? Like, do you have like a cited source for this, or is this how you just feel in your five fucking friends in your echo chamber?
I'm going by my recollection. I'm going by Taker, Bill Goldberg in 2018.
They're both older guys, dude. It's harder for them to do it, but people still want to see it. Do you still want to see Sting jump off a fucking balcony? No, but a lot of people do. And they're still gonna he's still gonna fucking do it anyway.
That's madness.
You know what I'm saying?
But then we're perpetuating the madness then.
Fans want to see it, Fern. Fans want to see it.
I get it.
If the fans want to see it and there's money to be made, then let's make some fucking money.
No, I get
and
all
WWE
that.
can cover up and can agent things better than anybody else because they're the fucking best.
I agree. That's why I think that if Bill Goldberg's not going to return to WWE,
Goldberg,
and he's going to do something.
I love the disrespect.
I just, again, the potential for disaster is going to be there because it's not going to be as agented as well as it would be with WWE. That's another concern I have as well. Like, if you're going to do it, I mean, if maybe if Paul and Vince.
Where'd you get this information from? Backstage in 2K? Like, is that where you got it from?
No. I'm just going by the premise you just mentioned. Like, nobody can agent and produce a match better than WWE agents and producers. So, like, I would argue, okay, if we have to endure another match with Bill Goldberg, I'd rather see that in WWE than see it some other promotion because other than Impact or New Japan.
It's going to be AEW. I think it's going to be AEW.
Well, guess what? They're ready. Like shit shows, that match is not going to be well produced or agented, and I just think potentially that could be a disaster. You're right.
Goldberg versus Jericho.
I'll tell you. That's a bathroom break for me, that's for sure. To the ratings now. Let's start with Raw, Pat. Another good week for Raw. Again, a little off from the previous week, but still a very, very strong number. 1.815, slightly down from the week before, 1.818. Obviously, the benchmark for the last few months was the Raw after WrestleMania, the day after, night 2.26. Obviously, you round out some of the dates in March, 1.84, 1.77, 1.70, 1.83. Solid numbers for Raw. Again, a lot of competition. The NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs, baseball. Again, a strong number. You saw some interesting matches, obviously. A reminder about the draft, which takes place tomorrow night in Chicago. Kind of interesting, I think, of what's going to happen tomorrow with the draft and maybe who's going to be moving where. Solid show again on Monday night.
I mean, I think we're used to seeing that with Monday Night Raw. I think it's always going to be a solid show. They're going to advance their storylines. I really dug the end of, I think, was it this past week's? The one where they had LWO, Judgment Day, and Bloodline in the ring together?
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good episode, man. I thought they did a lot of good stuff on that episode. I enjoyed it because now they're kind of throwing guys into the mix. There's a lot of different storyline possibilities. I know a lot of marks are going to complain, oh, these guys are jobbing and blah, 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 blah. But like, they're being used, dude. They're being used. Like, wins and losses, like, it's whatever, man. It's all about how you tell the fucking story. You know what I'm saying? They could turn you from an underdog into a main eventer overnight if they want to. You know, it's just a matter of the character catching. And if the character catches, then it's even easier. You know what I'm saying? If people are complaining about the fact that the LWO is getting jobbed out, then that means that people like the LWO, which means it's going to be easy to build them up to be something. So take it easy, pump the brakes, folks. You know, don't get exaggerated on what you think stuff's going on or who's getting buried or whatever the case might be. Enjoy the program for what it is. They're telling stories and they're telling good ones. No surprise here in the number.
No, they are. And, obviously some interesting dynamics coming up possibly with the draft starting tomorrow night. We'll see. Maybe we'll see some names switch brands, maybe current champions switch between brands. That's always a possibility from years past. Definitely will be worth looking out for tomorrow night as well. Moving on later in the week, AEW Dynamite, another putrid, atrocious, absolutely debilitating rating this week, folks. 830,000, down 36,000 from the week before. So, folks, just for all the AEW marks that want to sort of insult our intelligence and tell us about that this is good wrestling or good production or good storytelling, I'm going to read you these numbers from February on. This year alone, Pat, as we mentioned before, there's only been 2 instances where there's been 1 million or more rating. Okay, January 25th was 1,003,000. That was just by a million's a million. I get it, February 28th, 1.028. That was the Jay Briscoe show, obviously. The Memorial show, obviously. The rest of the year, we've been seeing high 800,000s, only a couple of weeks of high 900,000s. And for the last 4 of the last 5 weeks, 5 of the last 6 weeks, AEW has been in the 800,000 number range. 830,000 this week, 866,000 the week before, 877,000, 833,000. And this past Wednesday was probably the worst booked Dynamite, and that says a lot because there's been a lot of badly booked Dynamites where nothing made sense, and you had all different type of storylines all over the place. And again, someone is listen. I have these group chats all the time, and I know you talk to Marks too. That will blow up your phone as well. This is just bad television. It's not good wrestling. The idea that you think you're teasing Adam Cole and Chris Jericho at Double or Nothing in Las Vegas, which, by the way, they're going to somehow fill up the T-Mobile Arena. I don't know about that. But somehow you think it's a good idea to start conflating a whole faction of women to join Chris Jericho, to beat up Britt Baker, to beat up Adam Cole, to have the Butcher and the Blade challenging this week, to have – I mean, where do you begin with the clusterfuck that is AEW? Bad ratings. And again, this is a company that is trying to sell out T-Mobile Arena for Double or Nothing in Las Vegas on Memorial Day weekend, the same night that NXT Battleground is going to be on the air at 8 o'clock Eastern time. This is a company that's going to sell out the United Center, supposedly for the Forbidden Door, and then sell out Wembley Stadium. I'm sorry. There's no rational explanation anyone can give me. And I'm as objective as it comes when it comes to this stuff, that this company is moving in a positive trajectory. It isn't. These numbers don't tell you that, Pat.
But the snowman has an announcement.
I mean, obviously, it's not going in a good direction. We all know that. It's not particularly entertaining television, and there's a small section of fans that feel that this is the best wrestling product out there, and that's fine. I mean, hey, man, everybody's entitled to like what they like, right? But, we got to be intellectually honest enough to be able to see that this show, this product itself, is really not all it's cracked up to be, and it hasn't been for quite some time. So, no surprise here, D. I mean, I know you're an AEW guy, aren't you?
TNA, I just have this background as fucking as a joke.
Oh,
TNA
okay.
is fucking 1,000 times better than AEW was or is.
Yeah, I would say so. I just think that TNA, for better or worse, at least had structure to generate money, to generate interest, and to kind of do things that created buzz. A lot of people call Tony Khan the Snowman, but I would have to call him Buzz Killington, man, because he's
the fucking Booker of the Year.
Well, he's the Booker of the Year for the Wrestling Observer newsletter fans, and that's fine. That's okay. They're entitled to what they feel. But I think objectively speaking, he's not, because he's not growing AEW as a product at all.
No.
They could be a lot bigger. They could be a lot better. I get that fans like them, and that's cool. That's fine.
Answer me this, Mr. VKM. Why is it that AEW has fucking cruiserweights as their heavyweight champion and fucking heavyweights as their like IC champion?
Well, I mean, I think that's something you can't get away from nowadays. I mean, all the best wrestlers in the world technically are not heavyweights. None of these guys are 240 pounds and over. Bryan Danielson, CM Punk, those are probably the two best guys in that company. Kenny Omega is somewhere like around 220. Kenny Omega's not 240. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these guys.
Wardlow just came back and is massive, just ripped.
Yeah, but Wardlow got ruined a long time ago, man. Like, they put that belt on him, but like, it's Wardlow. When Wardlow came out and he had a chance to challenge for a title, and he chose the TNT title instead of the World Championship. That was it. That was it, man. You know, and I like Wardlow. I think there's a lot to work with there, and I think that if given the opportunity to, let's say, go to NXT or go to WWE, that's a guy that could become a very big star. And he's somebody that I would love to see against Braun Breaker. I mean, I think they could have some really good matches together. But he's a dude who has a massive upside. And I think one of the big things with AEW now is that they didn't build their guys, their pillars, outside of MJF, they really didn't build their guys. And now they're kind of trying to make up for it, and they're trying to like put them in a main event and seem important. But all the while, what they're really drawing people with and what they're really using to get interest is ex-WWE guys. So it's like, for as much as they didn't want to be like TNA, they kind of ended up like TNA, except TNA did it a lot better and a lot smarter. And TNA used those names to draw ratings and to draw interest.
And mind you, for all the people that love to make fun of me because I'm a diehard Impact fan, I still watch Impact Wrestling religiously every week. I have Impact merch. Like, folks, there was a period of time between 2009 into 2010 when Hogan and Bischoff arrived and they started booking and whatever, into 2011, 2012, where Impact was drawing like almost 2 million people a week, if not over 2 million. It was never going to catch WWE. I mean, obviously, when they made that, when they were kind of ballsy in 2010 in January to put Impact on Monday nights up against Raw. Listen, you can say whatever you want about Impact and Anthem LLC and the leadership over the years of who's been the hierarchy in that company. You know what? Give Dixie Carter and Anthem LLC at that time credit because they say, you know what? Let's put our chips in the middle of the table. Let's go challenge WWE. Woo! I get it that Monday night when Hogan debuted, right? Oh, change is coming. Well, it was the same night as Brett returning to WWE to confront Vince McMahon, to confront Shawn Michaels. And yeah, you know what? That rating blew everybody out of the water because how significant that moment was historically. And sure, an Impact stayed on Monday nights for a while, but they learned by the summer, they're like, you know what? This is not working for us. We're not going to compete. But you know what? Give them credit. And for all the bullshit that people talk about, oh, Tony Khan's this. If Tony Khan was really courageous, put Dynamite on Mondays. Put your money where your mouth is. Put Dynamite on Monday. Put Dynamite on Monday against Raw. Because all I ever hear, well, people make fun of Impact. Impact at least had the set to challenge Vince. And now, again, they didn't succeed, but okay. But you have to break some eggs to make an omelet. You have to kind of make a risky business decision because maybe it pays off. And guess what? It didn't. They learned. They moved back to Thursdays. And guess what? Even after moving back to Thursdays, there were still many weeks they drew 2 million people. So Tony Khan's not drawing 2 million people. Shit, he can't even draw 1 million. So this idea that, oh, well, Tony Khan is this exceptional producer and he knows how to book wrestling. No, he doesn't. He just doesn't. And the numbers tell you that.
Well, again, I don't even think that that's really the biggest problem. It's the whole business model of the company. It's indie wrestling on the national stage. It's a niche product, man. There's nothing wrong with liking it. There's nothing wrong with liking what AEW does. And we're not attacking the people that do, but be intellectually honest. You know what I'm saying? Be objective.
A lot of marks can't be. That's a problem for them.
I just think that with AEW, the best stuff that they do is the stuff that involves ex-WWE guys or MJF. Or every now and again, they'll get like one of their guys that kind of like shines through. Like right now, one dude that I think is really doing a good job shining through is Darby Allin. I think we're finally starting to see some real charisma out of Darby Allin. I think we're finally starting to see him kind of become a better promo. So I'm enjoying what he's been doing thus far. Jungle Jack, he's a kid. He's just lacking. Sammy, it's just he's a good spot wrestler, but like I want to see more character from these guys, man. I just want to see more character development, and I want people to be able to connect with these characters so that these guys, can really excel, and kind of move up the ladder. But Tony Khan's trying to make up a lot of ground now. He's bringing back CM Punk. I don't know if it's going to go over well. I think Punk's going to be a pro, but I think sooner or later something's going to happen. And I'll tell you right now, I think if Punk and FTR stay, I think we see the Elite leave in 24 and go to WWE. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. And, you know, another thing that you and I were talking about it off the air, you know, this whole situation with FTR re-signing with AEW, Punk trying to work it out with AEW, kind of leads you to maybe possibly speculate that maybe they might have reached out to WWE, or maybe WWE, there might have been some kind of conversation there with the parties. And I don't think anything was resolved that was to anybody's liking, or anything was proposed that was to anybody's liking. And I think that all the parties walked away and kind of just went and did what they did, you know, because, you know, I'm personally not a FTR fan. I appreciate what they do, and they are good workers in the ring. But I haven't seen a lot of personality from those guys. And I think that that's something that could really benefit them. I like that, you know, the bald one, FTR bald. I like that he's leaning into that shit. They're marketing it, FTR bald, FTR hair. Like, that's great. That's awesome shit. FTR, Family Tequila Wrestling. I saw that t-shirt. I was like, that's hilarious. That's fucking awesome. Lean into it. You know what I'm saying? Lean into it. Have some personality. But I think that if those guys end up staying, the Elite are going to go. But 2024 is going to be a really interesting year for AEW and for the future of WWE. So, you know, let's stay tuned and see what happens between now and then.
No, definitely. And I think that free agency, you know, as sports fans, you and I, we always look forward to free agency and all our, you know, obviously whether it's
Fern, I don't know if you're seeing this here. So Tony Khan, okay, so I don't think Tony Khan made Dax delete his podcast. I think he got rid of it on his own accord. I could be wrong.
Report to you.
Yeah, that was my understanding. I don't think that there was any issue with Tony Khan regarding that. I think Tony Khan is pretty laxed as far as like third-party stuff goes. But you know, yeah, that's our understanding, that Dax ended it because he wanted to.
Yeah, again, it's one of those things where maybe he just didn't feel comfortable doing it anymore, or not getting the traffic, or maybe not the positive feedback that he was hoping for, that maybe he was getting at one time. And listen, it's a tough business. I know that firsthand about podcasting. It's a tough business for sure. Going into SmackDown, solid numbers again, Pat. Looking into almost a 2.3 rating this past Friday night. A little, again, it's going to be a little low based on, again, the NBA playoffs, NHL, MLB, but still solid. 2.2, 2.468, 2.37, 2.2, 2.25, 2.32, 2.45. This is what SmackDown is. SmackDown on a mainstream channel like Fox is going to be in that mid-twos range. It might creep up into high twos, 2.6, 2.6. I mean, it's flirted with that in recent times. Again, the Bloodline storyline is certainly very, very continues to be very interesting. The ongoing saga and drama, obviously pushing the women's tag titles on Friday night. You're also seeing, Gunther. Listen, this past Friday, seeing Gunther versus Xavier Woods, aside from just the national treasure that is Samantha Irvin announcing Gunther's name or anybody, I could watch that woman recite the alphabet. Good wrestling on Friday nights, good storytelling. We'll see if Gunther stays on SmackDown after tomorrow night. We'll see with the draft. They're pushing Gunther to the moon. They're pushing Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan. Apparently now as women's tag champs, we are seeing Judgment Day and Rhea Ripley certainly be mainstays on the show. SmackDown continues to be strong, man. Again, it's a business model that's working. And for a show, again, without Roman Reigns on it regularly, it's still producing mid-twos numbers. So, again, we don't know when Roman Reigns will return. You got to probably anticipate after Backlash in Puerto Rico coming up in a couple of Saturdays that, as we lead towards Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia, that will be roughly around the time that he'll celebrate the 1,000 days as WWE Universal Champion. I'm sure we'll see Roman Reigns on TV, sure enough, but it's not hurting the number.
No, not at all. I think that if anything, it's helping the undercard guys. It's helping dudes like Solo Sikoa, the rest of the Bloodline guys get over even more. A dude like Matt Riddle. That main event was really, really good. All of SmackDown was solid, man. The matches were great. You see the seeds being planted for the furthering of stories. And, it's been excellent stuff, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Let's get to our main event topic here. And, Pat, I got to tell you, man, seeing some of this stuff recently, Omos versus Seth Rollins just announced over the weekend. No explanation, no backstory, nothing, just being booked for Puerto Rico on the Backlash PLE and some other stuff there. You know, I gotta tell you, man, you know, Vince is still booking here. I mean, look at some of these storylines. Look at Cody and Brock Lesnar. Cody not being able, you know, Cody somehow fighting through 7 security guys to get to Brock Lesnar. Couldn't get to Brock Lesnar. This just anticlimactic type of storytelling here. This is Vince and Kenny McMahon written all over it. And folks, again, you have to see this. If you don't see how blatantly obvious this is, Vince McMahon is in Gorilla. He's making Triple H fix him a cappuccino with lactate, maybe Vince is lactose intolerant. I don't know. Vince loves, you know, food, whatever Paul Levesque is doing in Gorilla, either is making phone calls, faxing documents, I don't know, maybe charging up the iPhone. He's doing something, but it's not Paul I'm creative. I'll tell you that right now. You can tell it's Vince McMahon still booking right now. It's painfully obvious, Pat.
Wow, that's quite an onion with many, many layers there. Okay, so where do we begin? Where do we really begin? Okay. You think that Vince McMahon is back in charge. He's booking again, right? I just want to be clear. And you think that Triple H is out getting cappuccinos or picking up bagels or doing whatever nonsense work that they're giving him, right?
Well, you know, Mahjong. I'm not sure if you've updated the new Mahjong game on your iPhone. It's really, really riveting. So
I don't know what that is.
Mahjong? No, it's a great board.
I don't have a fucking iPhone. You know.
Yes, I know. The flip phones don't allow for the amount of gigabytes.
I don't have a flip phone. I have an Android. But anyways, elitist Fernando looking down upon the rest of us using our phones. Well, here's the thing. You got Seth Rollins taking on Omos, right? Okay. We've never seen ever in the history of the business at any point in time a big man who's not the best in the ring, but is exciting and is an attraction in his own way, take on a workhorse. We haven't seen that ever in any other company besides WWE. We haven't seen that type of a match ever booked where a workhorse wrestler takes on a monster who's limited. Have we?
Yeah.
Okay, we've seen that before, right? Yeah. So then that's
all Vince McMahon
right.
stuff.
Right.
Great Khali,
Okay.
The oddities,
okay. Shawn Michaels versus Sid, Shawn Michaels versus Kevin Nash, Bret Hart versus Yokozuna. It's all sucked. It's all been horrible. I think that they're putting Omos in there with Seth to give Seth a chance to work with Omos and to help elevate him and to help maybe get something different out of Omos. I think Seth is up for the challenge because Seth is a workhorse, right? We know that already. We've established that already. And let's get to some other bookings. Let's get to like Raquel and Liv, right? Yeah, that's totally something Vince would book, right? That's totally something that Vince would book. Vince would totally book Raquel and Liv to win the women's tag titles. Vince would book the women's tag titles, right? Woo! Right? That's what Vince would do, right, Vern? Right, Vern?
He had to come out with their tits out, like, because that's what Vince likes. He had to come out on Monday night, cut that promo. Oh, I don't play second fiddle to anybody. I'm not someone's fantasy. I don't play second band to anybody. Yeah, you could cut that promo without having your tits out, but that's not Vince. Vince loves that stuff. That's all Vince. Right out first.
Everybody loves attractive women, Fernando. Triple H loves it. They all understand it. These are business people, bro. Okay. They understand that a woman going out there and looking good, looking different, looking interesting generates interest for them, interest for the company. They know this stuff. Triple H knows this stuff, right? Okay, so let's take a look at some other guys that we got on TV. Okay, we got Braun Strowman, right? Braun Strowman. That guy's on there fairly regularly, man. That's a guy that Vince McMahon got rid of, right? They're doing stuff with him. They're doing stuff with all these other wrestlers. all these other wrestlers that got released. Now, some of them, not all of them, can't really get over very well, or they haven't found anything for them yet.
The Viking Raiders. Why do we continue to see these guys on TV?
Because they're talented. Because they're talented.
They are talented, but it doesn't.
And because they're necessary. And because they're necessary. What are you going to do? You're going to have the same two tag teams wrestle each other over and over again?
Well, you might. But if you're not going to have good work, good character work, it's stale.
How is it stale? It's not stale. That was one of the best matches at WrestleMania. They had one of the best matches at WrestleMania. That 4-way was fucking amazing. Come on, man. Like this is not Vince McMahon, dude. This is not Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon is gone. This is Triple H. I think you and people like you have to have that difficult chat with yourself, okay? That maybe Triple H is booking stuff that you don't like.
You just made the list.
Is that a possibility? Could that be a possibility, Fernando?
Matt Riddle, you bring Matt Riddle back in what? He's been jobbed out like 2 weeks in a row already?
He's been jobbed out. He's been in a main event on TV. He's in a program. He's in a main event match at a PLE this in 2 weeks in Puerto Rico against the fucking Bloodline, against the hottest act in the business, teaming with one of the other hottest acts in the business. But they're jobbing him out. They're jobbing him out. Why? Because he took a couple of losses on TV. So we've never seen a guy that's working a main event program in a fucking PLE or a pay-per-view take losses on TV on his way to a fucking win at a pay-per-view. We've never seen anything like that. Or even if it's a loss, we've never seen anything like that. We've never seen storytelling like this before.
No,
is that just exclusive to Vince McMahon? WCW didn't do this. Other companies didn't do this. ECW didn't do this.
Yeah, but Pat, it's becoming now overt now. You can tell Vince has his hands in everything creatively. Like I just mentioned right now, the Viking Raiders, the idea about parading Trish out there because you want the eye candy. The same thing with
Trish had to go out there and cut a promo. What did you want her to do? Dress like fucking Mother Teresa? Like, I don't understand.
I understand.
How is that a Vince thing? How is that a Vince thing?
Because Vince loves to parade the eye candy out.
So the internet doesn't exist, right? And people can't go and Google pictures of Trish. There wasn't a fucking picture of her in the fucking program. Whoa. Nobody knows that Trish Stratus respectfully has a sumptuous rack. Whoa. Nobody knows that. Nobody knows that hasn't fucking watched wrestling.
No, I get all that.
You know, maybe Bayley should wear baggier pants and not show her posterior. Huh? Maybe that should happen. You know, geez, what you want everything to be puritanical here, Uribe? Huh?
Listen, what I'm saying to you is you look at what's on TV lately, and ever since, isn't it coincidence that since the Endeavor deal, haven't we seen a drastic change in the way that certain things are being booked creatively since Endeavor and WWE, again, Vince McMahon sold his shares to Endeavor to form this new company with UFC. And isn't it a coincidence now that we're seeing some of this really bad booking on TV? And all of a sudden,
What bad booking?
We're not supposed to think that Vince isn't back? Really?
What bad booking?
You
in the previous segment when we were talking about ratings, you just put over how Raw's been good and how SmackDown's been good. Please enlighten me. What bad booking has there been?
Well, Pat, I'm going to tell you right now. Do you see how annoying this is? Do you see what I'm saying to you right now? Do you see all the points I just articulated to you right now about Vince being in charge and about what's going on creatively? Like, do you see what I'm doing here? Here's a newsflash to all the marks at home. This is how dumb you sound. This is how dumb you sound because I just regurgitated all of your points, whether it's on Twitter or any social media. So if this annoyed you, if this pissed you off, if this made you want to regurgitate, it should, because this is how silly you all fucking sound when you keep preaching this narrative that Vincent Kennedy McMahon is booking. He's not. You have to come to the realization that, you know what? Paul Levesque is booking shit you don't like, and you're in fucking denial. You see how annoying I sounded right now, folks? That's how dumb you sound by dying on this hill.
I would like to nominate you for another award, the Oscar for Best Performance by a Male Actor in Working the Marks. You know, I would like to nominate you.
It took a while, right? Like I really, really like dug my heels in, right?
No, you did, and I give it to you, man. But it's true. It's I just think salud. I think people sound absolutely ridiculous when they think that Vince is around at all. Vince was around WrestleMania weekend to sell the fucking company. So what if the guy sat backstage and had a fucking headset on? He wasn't calling any shots. These people had these storylines in mind a long time ago. Triple H is doing his thing. It's okay to admit that you don't like it. It is what it is, man. There's a lot of stuff that AEW does that we don't like, right? We talk about it, we admit it, and then there's stuff that they do like, that they do that we like, you know? So there's nothing wrong with it, folks. But to think that Vince is back, come on, it's a stretch. Vince did this shit for so many years. He's exhausted. He doesn't want to have to keep dealing with fucking marks and all this bullshit. Guy probably couldn't even get a fucking meal without some weirdo following him with some program or some bullshit to sign. You know,
Vince, can you sign this, Vince?
Leave him alone. Let him have his fucking mustache and let him fucking do whatever the fuck he wants. That's all I'm saying. But realize that Triple H is in charge.
And again, folks, you know, and I did my best to really, really, really put on this performance because I think it's important to outline how tribal and how sort of dug into their heels marks online have become. And we all know who we're talking about, whether it's the more popular mainstream podcasts like Wrestling Observer Live with Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez or Sean Ross Sapp. I don't want to sort of group in Wade Keller because Wade Keller with Pro Wrestling Torch still has by and large remains somewhat objective. And I think they'll report news and Wade Keller will have opinions. But I think by and large, he's done his best to, I think, be as, you know, mainstream middle as possible. I think the same thing with like Disco, Inferno, and Conan on Keeping It 100. I mean, but there are guys online. We all know him, JD from New York on Twitter with his podcast, other wrestling shows, I think that go after WWE or pro wrestling in general. Pat, I'm with you. And I think the reason I wanted to really put on that performance was because this is what we see all the time on social media. We see this like excessive hyperbolic tribalism where there's facts right there in front of you. Okay. And I don't want to sort of conflate this with, you know, my political show on Mondays, but there are just some things that are evident and they're there for public consumption. Data, statistics, figures, economics, and like there are just things out there, folks, that are irrefutable. You either choose to see them or you choose not to see them, and you're just being partisan. That's what's going on with wrestling, Pat. We're throwing facts at you. We're throwing stats and metrics at you, and you still either are going to be in denial or you're going to try to fumble and hamina an excuse to rebut it because you just don't want to come to the realization, like you said perfectly, that Paul Levesque is now booking and scheduling segments that you may not like. Case in point, I was just talking with D off the air before you came on, before we broadcast live tonight. What did Triple H do on Friday? We saw yet another segment with Karrion Kross trying to pick a fight, trying to cut a promo about how vicious he is, and now how he has set his sights and targets on Shinsuke Nakamura. Yes, it helps that Scarlett's right next to him because she continues to be the show. Do you think Vince McMahon would be pushing Karrion Kross as much as he's being pushed on Friday nights because Triple H wants him to succeed? He rehired him, whatever the dollar figure was, he rehired him. Don't you want your investment to sort of work out for you? So you're going to milk every single drop out of that cow as possible to try to see if he can succeed. The same thing with Hit Row, even though we haven't seen Hit Row for a while on television. Same thing with the Viking Raiders. Why do you think certain acts and segments and character work is being pushed? Paul's trying to give everybody he is giving everybody every possible inch of that rope to hang themselves. And that's a bad analogy, but he's giving them every possible way to say, you know what, I'm going to throw it on TV as much as possible until, guess what? Until we squeeze every bit of juice out of that lemon. And I think Vince wouldn't do that. I'm not saying that that's not me being anti-Vince, but the guys that Paul is pushing, you said it, Raquel and Liv, if Vince was still booking, they wouldn't be the women's tag champs. It's that simple.
There wouldn't even be a women's tag team championship. Let's be real.
We wouldn't see Karrion Kross again in the dungeon somewhere or in the annals of the boiler room of the arena pushing a promo. Folks, you got to stop. This is like, if you Go back and watch what I said. And if you bought that entire performance, that's how a lot of marks sound, bro. It's tribalism. Bro, it's tribalism. It's not even partisan. It's tribalism that's like fucking misguided.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's really, really out there. And again, there's nothing wrong with admitting that something that you like isn't good or isn't up to your liking anymore. You know, I mean, there's been plenty of bands and plenty of musicians that I've purchased their albums, and it's not my favorite album, but it doesn't mean that I like them any less. You know what I'm saying? Who'd you say? You talk about this guy right here? You talk about Chris Coppinger? That's what you talk about. But yeah, nah, dude. It's just it's weird. It's really, really weird. And I just think that as a wrestling fan, even if you like it as much as you do, let's say you like it, you're more attached emotionally to the characters and all that stuff, that's fine. But like, you get to a certain age where you understand that this thing's a fucking business and these guys are trying to get paid. And all this shit that you thought meant something when you were younger, it really doesn't mean anything. It's just another way to tell a fucking story. You know what I'm saying? So I just think that a lot of these people lack awareness. And again, they have this hatred, this anti Vince McMahon, anti WWE thing going on. And they would love nothing more than for WWE to go out of business. And look, let me tell you something. I'm not the biggest AEW fan. I'm not the biggest Impact fan. I don't watch really NWA or anything else. I'll watch New Japan, but I don't hope that any of those companies go out of business because that's keeping people employed and that's keeping wrestling alive. So if you're really a wrestling fan and you want WWE to go out of business, you're a fucking mark and a moron and a loser. So that's all I got to say about that.
I would also argue too that I think you've never taken an economics course or a business course to save your life because you're not understanding what a good business model is. Whether you like it or not, you can't argue that the results are there and the metrics are there. So again, I think we can put it to rest, folks. Vince McMahon is not booking, and there's plenty of evidence to demonstrate that he isn't. Now, again, you want to believe what you want to believe. That's up to you. But folks, again, I say it all the time on Mondays. I'll say it here. The facts don't care about your feelings, folks. And neither do we. And before we call it a show here, Pat, on this day in pro wrestling history, on this day, April 23rd, in 1988, the Jim Crockett Senior Memorial Cup Tag Team Tournament was held for the last time until its revival in 2019 under the current NWA. In the finals, Sting and Lex Luger defeated Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson. In the previous year, Dusty Rhodes and Nikita Koloff won the Jim Crockett Senior Memorial Cup Tag Team Tournament. And in 1986, the Road Warriors won the inaugural one. Obviously, in 2019, it was revived by the National Wrestling Alliance, obviously under the direction of Billy Corgan. On this day in 1990, when the Ultimate Warrior defeated Hulk Hogan to win the WWF title on April 1st, WrestleMania 6 in the Skydome in Toronto, he was immediately forced to vacate the Intercontinental title, according to WWF President Jack Tunney, which set up a tournament to crown a new champion. The first semifinal was held on this day in Austin, Texas, with Mr. Perfect defeating Tito Santana. However, the following night, Rowdy Roddy Piper and the model Rick Martel fought to a double disqualification in the other semifinal match. As a result, both men were eliminated from the tournament, and therefore, Mr. Perfect and Santana would indeed be the de facto final, and Mr. Perfect would win his very first of many Intercontinental Championships. Also in 2006, TNA Lockdown was held at the Impact Zone. The main event was a lethal lockdown match, which saw Sting's Warriors, his team of AJ Styles, Rhino, and Ron the Truth Killings, defeat Jarrett's Army, which consisted of Jeff Jarrett, Scott Steiner, Chris Harris, and James Storm. Also on this day in 2007, after defeating him at WrestleMania 23 in Detroit, Michigan at Ford Field, WWE Raw was taped from Earl's Court in London, England. The main event saw Shawn Michaels defeat WWE Champion John Cena in a one-fall bout that lasted just a little less than 1 hour. One of the better wrestling matches, folks, you'll ever see. Obviously, HBK, obviously, in that match with John Cena. And also on this day in 2012, on an episode of Raw from Detroit, Michigan, Nikki Bella won the WWE Divas Championship in a Lumberjill match against the Glamazon Beth Phoenix. All this great stuff, folks, happening today, April 23rd, on this day in pro wrestling history. Pat, before we call it a night here, what you got for us?
Just want to shout out a big event that we got coming up. It's WTF Productions. We're going to be presenting the Metal Spring Fling, and that's going to be at the VFW Post 2648 on 510 81st Street in North Bergen, New Jersey. It's a 21 and over event. It's going to be hosted by Mr. Mucho Amor Carlos. He's actually one of my style inspirations here. He's you got to check this guy out, man. I mean, he's slicker than used rubber. And also, it's going to be featuring live press from our very own D Rotten and From the Dungeon podcast. All right. And the bands that are going to be performing on that show are going to be the Child Actors, Locaine, Chaotician, and Eye Destroyer. For tickets, you want to hit up IG at WTF_is_this_visuals. Or just hit WTF Visuals on Instagram search. You definitely want to come and check this one out. It's going to be a great time. Anybody who's into metal, any type of heavy rock music, you don't want to miss this one. And it'll be good to be back out on the stage over there. It'll be good to have D Rotten there. Maybe your Uribe might even come out and he might do maybe a Dio cover or something. What do you think? Holy Diver. I could see you doing Holy Diver. You could hit those falsettos.
Oh, maybe. I think so. Maybe. That was
you can hit up the falsettos, right?
Folks, on Monday night tomorrow, I'll be hosting a live edition of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe, and my guest will be the editor of Political NJ, arguably the leading political news site in the state of New Jersey. We'll have a lot to say about what's going on in legislative races this year in the state of New Jersey, as well as the current political climate, and much more, folks, with obviously Dustin Rapinoe, the editor-in-chief of Political NJ. Folks, you can check it out on StreamYard via Facebook Live and also on the Jersey First YouTube page, as well as on Twitter and on LinkedIn. Pat, real quick, before we call it a night there, Mr. VKM, one last thing for us.
Nothing. Go fuck yourselves. I got to go. It's been nice talking to you, man. Take it easy, all right?
Have a good one, bro. Love you, man. Great show. And we'll talk to you again soon here on Working the Marks. And again, shout out to your kids, bro. God bless them. And of course, great phone.
Shout out to Chris. I just want to, I want to actually say something about Chris to all our viewers. This is Chris. He's a drummer. He's a drummer for the Child Actors. There's nothing wrong with him. I just wanted to, just keep an eye out for Chris. All right. Good talking with you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Folks, again, check us out on our social media. Make sure you like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Of course, subscribe to Working the Marks on YouTube. Sharing is caring, folks. We love bringing you great content, great topics, great discussion. You can always rely on that every single week here via Famcast Media. A shout out to D-Ron, our amazing executive producer. Without his diligence and hard work, this show would not be possible. So again, I can't say enough, folks, about the hard work that he brings us every single week. And if we're talking wrestling, we're talking it here every single week on StreamYard, because I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, Fernando Uribe, and he is, of course, New Jersey's premier wrestling analyst, Vincent Kennedy Mick Rivera. And of course, we are always working the marks here on Famcast Media. Folks, have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you next Sunday here for another episode of Working the Marks. Folks, have a great night, and let's keep talking wrestling.
Famcast Media, bitch. Famcast Media.